earth on my feet, earth on my feet. I wanna walk on the earth barefoot, barefoot. Feel the earth on my feet, the earth on my feet. Feel the earth on my feet. I came into the forest to meditate when I noticed how activated I had become. The switch for me this morning, after having a very grounded and purposeful morning, the switch flipped for me at 10:50 when I realized that I had forgotten to put my son on a phone call for his neuropsych evaluation. I felt panicked. I felt like I was on a ship that was going down. I felt frustrated with myself and embarrassed, and my inner critic started yelling at me about how I always do this and why can't I ever learn. And I didn't notice those things before. That's why in therapy, so many therapists will ask you, where do you feel it in your body? They're trying to help you develop a practice, but nobody ever put kind of like into words to me that when I was in distress, like in the moment, that I should do that practice. I was doing it in kind of a reflective way. Like, I'm talking about this experience I've had, and now I'm reliving the experience and I'm thinking it through. But what I've really needed, and what the work, and what the book, The Work, what happened to you, all of these resources I'm talking about all the time now, helped me understand that the goal is to engage with the process when you're in it, to be able to stop and slow yourself down and be with what is happening. If you don't have that skill of being with what's happening, then you will turn to your coping mechanisms. At some point, I am going to attempt to show you a visual of what I call the coping mechanisms carnival. It's the place you go, the fair, the carnival, all of that was such a magical part of my childhood. You just felt amazing and so alive when you were there, and comforted, sort of. It's like the best childhood escape. And I think of coping mechanisms in that way, that they're an escape from feeling bad. I feel bad, and in order to not feel bad, I'm going to turn to something that has made me feel better in the past. Sometimes, for some people, that's substances, but for other people, it's yelling, it's expressing outward in kind of violent ways. And once I had brought my trauma reactive state, because I believe just all of this stems from, again, not just my parents. When I talk about trauma, I'm not just talking about my parents anymore. I'm talking about the lived experience of being out of integrity with yourself, those rips, those ruptures. And this tiny experience of being late for this call is an echo of every time I have been late, every time it has been communicated to me that my lateness is unacceptable, that there's something about me that is flawed and that I need to fix in order to be accepted and validated and appreciated, or whatever it is that I'm craving. I'm feeling really proud of myself for stopping and coming out here. And there I, of course, have, like I've said, I want to share the process with you that I'm going through, because I don't think I'll be able to capture it fully otherwise. There is, of course, a voice in my mind, and there are people who are wanting to type and write to me right this second to talk about how indulgent that is, how privileged that is, how lazy that is, how they don't see or understand why I would need to have this. And this is the problem that I have been my entire life prioritizing those outside voices because at the root of my experience, I wasn't safe, accepted, loved, or seen unless I did that. If you did not grow up in an environment that raised you in a way that emphasized validating you for who you are, loving and accepting you for who you are, before making space for you to be exactly who you are, no narcissistic influences that say you cannot be anything except what I imagine and want you to be. And Mormonism and the narcissism in my family experience were a double gut punch for me over and over again, consistently communicating that I should not and could not listen to myself if I wanted to be safe. And that's the process I am going through. That's why it's important for me to come meditate in the forest when I see that I am activated, when I see that I have moved away from myself. That is a line from one of my favorite meditations in the Dipsy app. I've talked about it in the past. And Eva, I can't remember her last name, but please DM me if you have the Dipsy app and you're interested in trying this meditation because it's so magnificent. This is catching myself in the act of being trauma reactive, slowing down and regulating my body again is probably my biggest focus in the midst of, as you can see, a lot of different things. I always love to overload myself, especially I think when it comes to personal growth. I just want to get there. And it's time for me to meditate, but I want to reflect on something that I've been thinking about that maybe if I say it out loud and kind of make it part of this dynamic here, I can focus on it more and remember it. I am really aggressive in my delivery, in this thing that is bringing me closer to softness. My guess is, and again, I tend to process things by pushing them outward. So I'm hoping that talking this through to you will help me let go of my grip on it. I think it's a bit of a reaction that comes from the fears I have around talking about this and being loved, accepted, and seen in my family, by the people I love, by my tribe. And I am in the midst of a grand experiment. I mean, I have been really since I left Mormonism, but I'm in kind of a new push of when I see something that I am attached to but is outside of me, like this defensiveness, this I'm gonna tell you and I'm gonna make sure you hear me. I see now that so much of my lived experience when I was young was oriented around, do you see me? Do you love me? Do you accept me? If I show up, will I be loved, accepted, validated, seen? And that it is a great unlearning for me to let go of that and to just relax into the delivery. I did it. I found my way back to myself. That's the work. That's what the work is. Because now I can go back into my beautiful dream of a life. I love my life so much. It is priceless to feel this avenue, to experience this avenue that opens me up to more fully experience and enjoy what already is. And now I'm going to go inside and turn on a disco lamp and do a one-song dance party with the kids in order to take this somatic state and drive it in deeper in my memory and connect it with them and our life together.